In this podcast episode, we want to talk about exercise and stress and cortisol and kind of cover everything that you need to know. And the reason why we want to talk about this, because I mean, I don't know about you, but every time I ask my clients, like, how are you managing your stress? Almost every single one of them say the same thing. Well, I work out, right? Like, that's the only thing that helps. Exercise helps me feel better. I went for a run, I go soul cycle 3 days a week, or, I do a boot camp class. I'm on Peloton, every single morning at 4 a.m. So that's usually like their go-to response of, how are you managing your stress? Well, through exercise.
Mhm.
Okay. Maybe if you're listening to this, you're like, I'm the same way, right? When I'm stressed, my go-to stress reliever is exercise. But the conversation with them always comes back to, like, did you know though that when you exercise, that actually increases your cortisol, right? Your stress hormone. And they're always really surprised to hear that. And then they're like, oh my God, so should I stop exercising? Right. So we're here to kind of like clear up the myths. Let's get down to brass tacks around like everything, what you need to know about exercise and stress and cortisol, because it's not necessarily a bad thing that your cortisol increases when you exercise. That's not a bad thing. But if you are someone who is chronically stressed, right? More exercise is not always better. So today we're going to answer that question. And we're also going to cover some other important questions, like, right, does exercise actually help lower stress? Why does cortisol increase when you work out? And is that a bad thing? Should you exercise if you are chronically stressed and if your cortisol is already high? And how can you actually make exercise a stress reliever, not a stressor? Okay, so that's what we're going to jump into today. Why don't we start with understanding what actually happens to cortisol when you exercise? So do you want to kind of like give us lay of the land, like what happens with cortisol when you work out?
Yeah. So those of you who are brand new to cortisol is your body's stress hormone. Okay. We like to think of it as like your body's built-in alarm system that helps you respond to any challenge that's presented to you, right? Like when something stressful happens, like a work deadline, a fight with your partner, or, a tough workout, your brain essentially sounds the alarm, and your adrenals respond by releasing cortisol to help you deal with, XYZ situation. And it cortisol, it gives you a quick energy boost, it increases your focus, and it helps you react more quickly. Okay. So talking about it in like the exercise sense, right? So during exercise, cortisol naturally spikes because your body experiences exercise as a form of stress. Okay. It's temporarily challenging your body, right? Like if you think about it, like when you go into the gym or like you put a workout on and you're doing a workout, your body is being challenged. It's pushing beyond its normal limits. So when you work out, you're creating like tiny tears in your muscles, you're increasing your heart rate, and your body sees these things as a stressor. Okay, it's just registering all of these things that are happening internally to your body when you're lifting weights, when you're working out as a stressor. Okay, because it's a change from your body's usual state, which is pretty much sedentary. Okay, so it's like it activates the same response that it would to any other stress in your life, right? So this is why you have extra energy, extra focus. If like anything that you need to pull as a resource for that workout or for any situation where you need to be like really paying attention. This is actually a good thing, okay? Because your body does need cortisol to mobilize energy to fuel your muscles and essentially like keep you going to give you a really good workout. So like we really like cortisol to give us a good workout. Okay, so I do want to be clear that exercise and cortisol being elevated, that's not a bad thing. Okay, that's what your body should be doing, right? We should have that temporary rise in cortisol while you exercise because that's normal and that's healthy. Okay, the key, like, this is a very, very important part. The key is that after your workout is finished, your body should bring cortisol levels back down to normal. Like naturally, that's what should happen. Okay. That's part of why, you feel calmer, you feel more relaxed after exercising, because your body is going from this like fight or flight mode to what we call a rest and digest mode. Okay. And when everything goes back to normal, then your body has time, like your muscles have time to heal and recover and essentially get stronger for your next workout. Right. And
Yeah.
I want, God.
No, sorry to cut you off. I was going to say like that whole, all the endorphins that are released, the serotonin that's released, that all of those like feel good chemicals that are released after your body, after you wrap up an exercise. Like that's why I think a lot of people start to feel like, exercise is a stress reliever, because really you're releasing like those endorphins, those feel good chemicals afterwards. But also, like you said, when you move out of that fight or flight state back into the what you call like the rest and digest mode, where everything starts to kind of like you move into that recovery mode. That's like that best feeling in the world, right? When you've had a really hard workout, like you've pushed yourself, you feel super locked in like while you're working out, and then you get home and you take a hot shower and you have fresh clean hair and you put on like the biggest ugliest sweatpants you can
Yeah.
find, and you just like ugly lay on the couch. Like that calm relaxed feeling, that feels really really good,
Yeah.
right? So I get it. But if we now know that exercising and increasing your cortisol while you exercise, like that's not a bad thing. It's good, it's normal, it's healthy. It means your body's functioning normally. Cool. Like we've kind of checked that box off. We don't have to be worried about raising your cortisol while you're exercising. But this is where like the caveats are. And you know how much I love my caveats, right?
Love your caveats.
Love a caveat. If you are a person who is chronically stressed, right? Like fast or rewind 2.5, 3 years ago when I was like full blown stressica mode. If you are chronically stressed, what happens? Like, what does that mean for someone who is chronically stressed if you are exercising all of the time and your cortisol is constantly increased, or like you're continuing to pump out more cortisol?
Yeah. Yeah. So when we're talking about chronic stress, like we're not talking about isolated moments of stress, like, you have a big client presentation next week that you're prepping for, or like you have like a massive deadline next week. That's kind of like, like what this month, has been all of your stress. This we're talking about chronic stress. We're talking about constant stress that's been going on for a while. Okay. Your job is literally nonstop. It consumes your life. You're playing mom taxi the second you get out of work. You're not getting home sometimes until 9 p.m. You're trying to do the grocery shopping and keep the house clean, and you're trying to eat healthy and exercise, figure out what's for dinner. And like you're constantly living in a state of overdrive. Okay. That is chronic stress, especially if it's been going on for like over a year. And when you're stressed out for a long time, just constantly, you're worried, you're anxious, you're dealing with tough life stuff, your cortisol doesn't get a chance to come back down. Right. So like remember I was saying like after your workout, your cortisol, like your body should naturally bring your cortisol back down. And that's what would be a healthy response is during your workout, your cortisol is elevated. After the workout, your body is able to regulate back down to baseline. Right. It's kind of like your body's alarm system is being stuck in that on position when you have chronic stress. Okay. When this happens, if you're like, yep, that is me to a T, you probably feel exhausted all the time. You probably don't sleep great. If you are sleeping, you probably still wake up really tired in the morning. Like you wake up and like you're like, I slept for 8 hours, but I still feel exhausted, right? You might be bloated. You might have trouble going to the bathroom. Like you're constipated. Maybe you have bowel movements like twice a week, right? You might be feeling puffy under eye bags, puffy in your face, like your face is just like really round. Overall, like you might feel weighed down. Or you might feel like you have zero motivation to do anything except like doom scroll on social media. Okay, so chronic stress, it has a lot of really crappy side effects. And one of them is not being able to properly recover from your workout. Okay. So we just talked about how after a workout, your muscles, they need time to heal and rebuild and get stronger for your next workout, right? We just said again, like just to reiterate, cortisol's high, it comes back down. During that downtime, your body's able to rest and recover. It needs to do that in order to prepare for the next workout so that you continue getting stronger, right? Well, when you're constantly stressed and your body's releasing too much cortisol, it slows this process down. So this is why, for some people, you're just sore all the time. Or like you've during like a really, really like heightened period of stress in your life, you're like, you can't, like, you're not recovering from your workouts. You are just sore, your body's aching. You don't feel good during your workouts, right? And it also messes with your sleep, right? Like without proper rest, your recovery suffers even more. So if we're not recovering, we're not sleeping, I mean, to top it off, like it's also disrupting other hormones that help with muscle repair. So overall, this is just making it harder for your body to recover and get stronger after exercise when you're chronically stressed. So even though adding in those really intense workouts, it might feel good in the moment, if you are someone who's chronically stressed, because I know for a lot of people, and like this was me for so long, when like after work, right? Like you look forward to going to that workout class. You look like really forward, or like going to the gym and just like taking out all of your stress from the day at the gym, at that workout class. But when you're raising your cortisol even more on top of your chronic stress, and then you can't recover afterwards, it's not going to end well for you, right? And you're going to end up feeling 10 times more drained because of that.
Yeah, I think like it's so good how you broke this down to help us understand that in isolated periods, right? If you're someone that you have just like pockets of stress in your life, which we all have pockets of stress in our life, right? It's just kind of the nature of it. But if you are someone who is stressed 24/7, that kind of changes the game for you, right? Because if your body is already like in cortisol overdrive, and then on top of it, you're like, well, by doing all of my high intensity workouts and doing that 7 days a week, that's how I manage my stress. Maybe you don't quite understand that. Well, by doing those workouts, we're actively incorporating more cortisol, like adding more cortisol into the mix. So that's not ideal for someone who is living in chronic stress. And I always think about one of my clients. She was just like the queen of high intensity workouts. And we had worked together for, gosh, it was probably about 4 months at this point. And she was just like, every check in was like, I feel like I'm not, making any more like gains in the gym. Do you know what I mean? Like we have, we had her keep a logbook, that way she could see like how her workouts were progressing. And she's like, I feel weaker. I feel shaky. I'm tired all the time. Like I'm waking up and I just don't feel like I even slept. And the word that she used, she's just like, I just feel like burnt out. Right.
Mhm.
And on top of that, like we were tracking her digestion. Like you said, she was pooping twice a week and that was it. She was bloated all the time. She just felt like sore and achy all the time. And this was the kicker for her. She was so frustrated. She's like, I work out like all the time, but I'm still like puffy and pudgy. Like I look like soft, like doughy, you know what I mean? And for her, that was like, I don't understand how I feel so crappy, how I look so crappy when I am working out all the time. So one of the things that we did is we started kind of like doing a lifestyle deep dive, and we found out that she was dealing with some heavy life stuff, right? Like her work was consuming her life. She was super bogged down there. Like her boss was crazy and just constantly texting her, emailing her. She was up till like 2 o'clock in the morning working most nights, had stuff going on with her spouse at the time, struggling with some stuff with her kids. So she was just in this chronic stress state. And once we discovered that, and then we looked at like all of the constant exercise that she was piling on top of it, that kind of led us to realize, well, the type of exercises that you're performing, that's not actually going to be conducive to helping you. We're just kind of adding fuel to the fire here. So it was really that wake up call for her that we needed to adjust her approach. Right.
Yeah.
And so thinking about this client, if you kind of find yourself in the same position and you are like, well, yeah, I am the person that, I'm doing Peloton 5 times a week and going to my Soul Cycle class or boot camp class or whatever it is, kickboxing, right? If you are someone who's chronically stressed, the question then becomes, I guess, right? Well, should you even be exercising, or should you stop exercising altogether? Like you're scaring some of us by telling us that this is not good. We're just raising cortisol by doing something we love.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want anyone to feel that way. I think exercise is the best thing for like your mental health. So yes, you absolutely can still exercise if you're stressed, and like you should. You need to understand though what your body is asking you for, right? So the last thing that you want to do is overexert yourself all the time. Okay, so I worked with a girl, and she was just like naturally a high stress person. She's very anxious, very worried all the time. And part of her de-stressing routine was to go to this like 60-minute high intensity workout class every night after work, like every night after work. Okay. And then she would do spin classes on the weekend. Like she was literally running herself into the ground. And that is exactly what you don't want to do. Okay. So there are a few things that you want to think about. If you are someone right now who is experiencing chronic stress that you can't seem to get rid of, but you also do like to exercise. So, number one, you want to avoid doing too much like high intensity training if you're already feeling like you're running on fumes. Okay. HIIT workouts or like, long runs multiple times per week. If your body's already in overdrive, these types of workouts can push it further into stress mode. Okay. So what you want to do instead is focus on movements that, calm your nervous system. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can literally go for a walk. Like that can be your exercise. You can do yoga. You can do Pilates. You can do strength training. You can swim. And these are all helpful because these types of exercises, they still release endorphins, which is what makes you feel so good after your workout is over, right? And your body has an easier time with regulating cortisol. There's not such high spikes in cortisol for that. So it's not going to completely overwhelm your body. And I'll give you like an example. So so it was last year or about a year and a half ago. I was in a place where like my stress was so high. It was so bad. And like I had been strength training for what, like 7 years, right? And so that was the first time in my life since I had started like really strength training hard, that I was walking into the gym, and I was like, it was probably one of the most stressful years of my life, walking into the gym, and I felt like I wanted to cry. Like I would literally just like sit in the dressing room on the bench and like kind of scroll on my phone, because I'm like, the music out on the floor in the gym is so loud. It was so overstimulating for me. I could sometimes barely just like all I could do was like get on the treadmill and walk, and like just the thought of going over to like the weight section and lifting weights, which I had been doing for years, was horrible. It was like I had so much anxiety to do it. I didn't want to do it. I hated it. And it got to a point of like I stopped exercising completely because I was like, I hate this so much. I don't know what to do. I ended up going out of my comfort zone and doing a yoga class one night, and ended up loving it. Like it felt really good. I still got that, endorphin release. But I felt way more regulated. Like I felt calm in the class. I wasn't overstimulated in the class. And it was something that it got me out of that like super like intense workout to something that was more of like a restorative movement, and something that just felt good. And so that's what I would say back to you is like, what exercise feels good for you when you are really stressed? And for some people, it is like going and doing a spin class. I think we're talking about more of the people who are like, I'm so fucking stressed. So I'm going to go do a spin class like 7 days a week, and maybe do like a hit class like in the morning, before work, because I'm so stressed, and like this just like helps. It's almost like you're addicted to that like come down, but like the more you do it, the less like that come down is happening, which is just overall raising cortisol.
I think it's so good that you kind of shared your own personal experience. I had a really similar one, but I think that it's hard, right? If you're used to training a certain way, it can be really hard just to even ask that question to yourself of like, what is something that you would enjoy doing? Right? Because for a lot of us, I don't know. I trained in a progressive overload, like strength training, style for however many years. And then getting to this point where I felt, like you said, so overstimulated, so stressed, to being like, now what do I do for exercise? Right? Like, I don't feel like I can go do like a high intensity workout on the Peloton, because that's also like, that feels stressful to me. But so like, I feel like I had to go through a couple of like different trial and errors of like, try somatic exercises, try Pilates, try yoga, try just going for a walk, try like some type of restorative movement. It felt really, I don't know. Truthfully, like at the time, I felt really soft. I
Yeah.
was like, what is wrong with you? Like, get back into the gym. You're just being lazy. But I knew that, like you said, I knew something deeper felt off when just the thought of going to the gym made my chest would start to like get tight just thinking about it, and it made no sense. So I love that you said to also like listen to your body and
Mhm.
listen to what your body's asking you for. I have a client right now, and she struggles with a lot of, inflammation and autoimmunes and things like that. She really loves like down and dirty, heavy type of strength training, right? Like she loves it. But when she's been having these flare ups and she's been having, this, she's like kind of in chronic stress mode, we've had to really pull back on that. And so, there are some weeks where she doesn't strength train at all and she's just focused on yoga and that's it. There are some weeks where she does strength train, but it's not like a top set style strength training. You're not trying to PR every single time. You're not trying to push your heaviest loads every single time. We're just doing it to almost like keep the muscle memory, to keep your blood flowing. Like it's
Yeah.
a very different approach. She doesn't like it, right? She's like, I'm not happy. I don't feel the same way. But it's that trade off of, maybe in the meantime, it doesn't feel as good, but do you want your body to recover long term?
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about next, because if you are in this, if you're listening to this and you're like, shit, this is me. I know that I'm over exercising. I know that I haven't really been able to either give it my all during my workouts lately, or I kind of don't really enjoy it anymore. Number one, I want you to know that this switch to some like lower intensity workouts, it's not permanent. So I'm past that. Like I got past it. I did yoga and like walked. I did somatic exercises. I probably did that for like a good, I don't know, 6 months, like half a year. And then I got to a point where I was able to heal from that like overdrive, chronic stress, super high cortisol. And then I found balance. So instead, like Jess was just saying, instead of going into the gym to strength train and like PR every single time, I just went in and I lifted weights because I wanted to, because
Right.
I feel good, because I enjoy it. And it was kind of like a like you said, like trial and error, like how many days do I want to do that? How many days? I really have been enjoying doing cardio. I want to include that, but not go crazy. It's just 20 minutes like 3 times a week. I want to do some core work. Like I want to stretch. So it's a blend of all the things that I'm doing, because it makes me feel better to do that than to not do it, right?
Yeah.
But when you're doing it to I'm so stressed and I have to go work out and da, 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 and then it gets to a point where you feel burnt out from it, that's when you know you need to back off, heal yourself, and then you can start to bring it back into your routine. But if you keep going, I mean, if you're already at burnout, you're just going to get more burnt out. Like there's no you can't burn out through the burnout, you know what I mean? Or like pass through the burnout.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I want to be clear because I'm already thinking of like a couple of people that are going to be listening to this and being like, oh my God, should I stop exercising because I am stressed and I think that I'm over exercising? For the most part, like most people are not in a place where they're over exercising, right? If you're training like 30 minutes, 2, 3 times a week, and you're not training like to a super high level of intensity, you're probably not
This is not for
doing
you.
more damage. Yeah, this conversation's not for you. You are fine. Like keep doing your thing. We'll talk about like, recovery and other things that you can do to help, like, make sure your body's continuing to recovering. I'm talking about the person, like I think about your client who she was up at, 4:30 in the morning every single morning, driving an hour to the gym, like, round trip hour to the gym before whatever, getting her kids ready, coming home, then trying to go for a walk, get her run in. Like she was just constantly running herself into the ground. I'm talking about that type of a person where you already are burnt out, you're already overwhelmed, and then you're just kind of like piling it on every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I want you to do is I want you to think about it like this. Exercise is a great tool, okay? But it's really only effective if you give your body what it needs to recover, okay? So, your most important thing, if you are this person who you do work out consistently, but you are pretty stressed, the most important thing is to make sure you're doing everything you can to help your body support recovery. So, do you maybe want to talk through a few different ways that people can start to support recovery?
Yeah. I think the easiest one, like the lowest hanging fruit, is just fueling your body properly, right? I know, I get it. I understand whether you are working in a corporate role, whether you are, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, you're trying to juggle, wear a million different hats. You're in meetings all day long, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get that it's really hard to prioritize nutrition. A lot of times you're skipping meals, you're grabbing food on the go, you're living off of, protein bars, you're drinking more coffee than you're drinking water. The lowest hanging fruit, easiest way that you can start to prioritize or help your body recover is by making sure that you are fueling your body properly, right? So making sure you're eating enough protein, cutting out like a lot of the processed crap, right? The quick and easy sources of energy, high sugar, high salt, refined carbs, energy drinks, like your mocha latte, frappuccino, Starbucks bullshit, like all of that stuff is going to keep cortisol elevated longer, right? It causes spikes in your blood sugar, it causes increases in cortisol. That is not going to help. Even things like, I have a lot of ladies where because their cortisol so high, they're feeling puffy, they're feeling pudgy. And so they're like, I know I'm going to go do Optavia, or I'm going to cut my calories super low
Yeah.
and I'm going to be on a starvation diet because I don't want to feel puffy and pudgy anymore. Not eating enough food, not consuming enough calories, that's also a stress on your body. So you need to make sure you are eating like a good 3 wholesome meals a day, right? Make sure you're eating enough protein, have a good balance of carbs and fats, make sure you're getting in some servings of veggies, at least 1 serving of fruit, and like drink some fucking water. Stop living off of coffee. It's not good
Yeah.
for you.
I think that's really important because like nutrition is something I remember like working in the office, and it was so easy to just be like, "God, I don't have time." So it's just like grabbing a protein bar. And it's like when you think about it, like they're marketed as healthy things. And like for the most part, these things that you're grabbing that are kind of quick and easy, they are healthy, but there is such a difference in eating wholesome, like whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even like today, I know if I have a really busy day and I'm like, even like under my calories, like what I should be to like maintain where I am right now, I feel bad. Like I feel like shit. Even like the next day, I'm like, oh, like I know like I hit my calories, but I didn't do it in a way that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So I want you to, if you're in this position, I want you to start thinking about like, what am I putting into my body to make my body thrive,
Mm.
right? To like really, really fuel my body, like Jess said.
Yeah, to recover. And that we're not saying like don't ever eat fun foods. A good rule of thumb is like, can 80% of the foods you eat during the day, can those come from whole food sources? Like whole grains, quality bread, oats, lentils, beans, things like that, protein sources, vegetables, fruits, things that are like from the earth, right? Not shit that's like made in a lab somewhere. That's like infused with like fake protein. Like eat real food. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Okay, so make sure you're eating enough, make sure you're eating consistently, make sure you're eating real food. A second thing that you want to do, and this is hard for a lot of people, especially if you are responsible for young kids, especially if you are you're working a job where you're either on call all the time or you have like quick turnaround deadlines. I get it, but you need to prioritize sleep. Prioritizing sleep is the most important thing for you. This is where your body has the ability to kind of reset cortisol. This is where repair, like muscle repair, happens, where muscle growth happens. Your cells, every single cell of your body needs sleep in order to properly recover and to set yourself up to feel rested the next day. That is so important. So if you are not sleeping enough, number one, or if you find yourself in a place where like you get into bed, but then you can't fall asleep. So you're scrolling or you wake up every night at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can't go back to sleep, or you feel like you just don't have restful sleep. That is a big thing that we need to like figure out. We need to learn how to get in enough hours, but also make sure that the sleep is restful. Okay. The third thing that I would say to do, and this is where, I started out this episode saying this episode was kind of born out of conversations that we've been having with our clients who are like, what are you doing to manage their stress? And they're like, exercise, right? I exercise. Well, okay, now we know exercise is not actually a stress reliever. So if that's not a stress reliever, like what are you doing to relieve stress? And most of them are like, well, then I guess nothing, right? So the next thing that you're going to do, if you really want to prioritize like recovery, lowering cortisol with exercise, you need to incorporate like actual stress lowering behaviors into your routine, right? You just learned, even though exercise feels like it's lowering stress, it's not. It's not a stress lowering activity. So you need to try other things. So some of our go-tos are breath work, or like Melissa said, stretching, somatic exercises, just getting outside in nature. Nature is clinically proven to lower your cortisol and have a calming effect. Getting outside in nature, go for a walk. Go for a walk outside, get some sunshine, breathe the fresh air, like look at all of the green. That's really important. Things like praying or journaling, or even, a few minutes of just mindfulness while you're at the desk during the day. That's so important. And I know you just put together a brand new resource for 5 stress lowering techniques, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I know that like one of the biggest one of the biggest stressors is your job, right? Like you're stuck at the office, you are in back-to-back meetings. During those back-to-back meetings, you're getting Slacks, you're getting emails, you're getting assignments. Like it's just nonstop. And I know that for number one, like firsthand experiencing that for both of us, but then also like listening to my clients, talk about that. And it's like, God, like, well, okay, what can we do? Because you cannot let that, completely dictate your life, even though, I mean, you're at your job more than your home, right? But this actually was born out of, I started implementing this with one of my clients, and I just had her do some like really like subtle like breathing exercises at her desk where like no one would even know that's what she was doing. And I'm not kidding. I mean, it was like during the holidays too, and she was like, I feel so much better. I cannot tell you how much easier it was to manage stress at work just by being able to do these exercises at my desk. And she loves it. It's like her like superpower at work. Like no one knows she's doing it. So we came up with 5 exercises that are like super subtle, very low key. You can do them at your desk without anyone even knowing. And it's just a good way to be able to reset your stress, like take a moment, pause, like regulate your nervous system, and then be able to go about your day as a calm, regulated human being that's not going to fly off the wall or, you know, like snap at your coworker. So if you want that, that resource, I guess you can, God, I don't know what to do on a podcast episode. You can email us.
Yeah, or come join our app. Like if you haven't joined the Luminue app, just go to the App Store, whatever one you use, iPhone or Google, and just type in Luminue. Make sure you put the umlaut, the two dots over the U. If you type in Luminue, you'll see our app pop up. If you join that, you can come right into the group, into our community, and grab that guide. On top of that, we have like so many other guides that are in there, things for like,
Sleep one.
the sleep one,
Yeah.
how to like cut down on alcohol, just managing stress in general. So all of those resources will be really helpful, like kind of tied into this conversation. So yeah, go ahead, download the app, come join us in there, and you could head over to the free resources section to grab that. But yeah, that's a big one. It's funny you say that. I had a client this week during her check-in. She was saying that it was her first week of really practicing mindfulness. And every every hour, she would set a little reminder to like drop her shoulders, unclench her jaw, like breathe for a few minutes. She's like, you have no idea how much better I felt. And then I felt like I was just making better decisions all week around like moving more, eating better foods, not being so irritable, like not snapping at people. And I was like, do you see like what a big difference it is when you do start to incorporate just even a few minutes of mindfulness every day? So that's a big thing, right? Remember, exercise does not actually lower your stress, even though it feels like it. So you do need to bring in some kind of like, actual stress lowering behaviors or strategies. And then the last thing, and this is so important, you need to take rest days, right? That whole like, team no days off, like that's so like early 2000s, you know what I mean? We have to get back to the understanding that our bodies are not meant to be going 24/7, right? We weren't built to live with this level of chronic stress and then constantly be on the go, constantly be overstimulated, constantly be running ourselves into the ground. That's exactly what causes burnout. So you need to start thinking about rest days as part of your fitness plan. They are just as important as your workouts, right? They cannot be an afterthought. So I want you to know that if you do struggle to take rest days, if the word rest is like triggering for you and you're like, well, that makes me feel lazy, that makes me feel like I'm not doing enough, let's just reframe them or reterm them as recovery days, right? Or repair days. And know that that's actively part of your process of your body getting stronger and being able to recover.
Yeah, and like they can also be like active recovery days if that makes you feel even better. So like you still should be going for a walk. You can still do yoga if you want. You can still do things like that like still feel good. It's still some form of movement. You should never just be sedentary because that's going to make everything 10 times worse, right? But let's just like reframe it to active recovery. And I remember a client from I think like 4 years ago now, but she like again it was probably 2 to 3 months of like really 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 heavy stress at her job, and she was still trying to work out 5 days a week, and I was like, I feel like we should pull back, like we really need to pull back. She did not want to, and it got to a point where I finally like put my foot down. I'm like, you're not working out more than 3 days a week. Ended up pulling her back to only 2 days a week. Her mood, her face, her stomach, like, and she was already pretty lean, but like just instantly, I mean, her body just looked like you could actually see like the lines of her abs, just because that bloat, like the stress bloat, the stress puffiness just started to like melt away, because we shifted out of like, let's stop piling on stress. Let's start pulling back. And like, I just want you to walk. So it does happen, but she's back to strength training. But you have to be able to like listen to your body and adjust accordingly.
Yeah. So I think, like you've been saying this entire episode, right? Exercise is important for your mental health, for your physical health. We're not saying don't exercise. It can absolutely help with regulating stress, but yes, the intensity of your workouts matters. The type of workouts that you're doing matters. And if you are someone that is healthy, and if you are someone who is working out to a normal degree, right, that temporary increase in cortisol, That's normal. That's healthy. It's when you are someone who's chronically stressed. It's when you are, it's like that deadly combination of being chronically stressed and overtraining. That's what's going to make things worse. That's what makes it harder for your body to recover, right? So if you are in that place where you are feeling, yes, I am overstimulated, I'm overstressed, I'm overtraining, this is where it is the most important thing for you to stop judging yourself, stop trying to do more and be more, and maybe just be okay with pulling back for a little bit, right? Your body is going to tell you like what it needs. Do you need more rest? Do you need more restorative movement, right? If you have been feeling really burnt out, just give it a try, right? Like get off the Peloton and do a 10-minute restorative yoga instead, right? Like right on the Peloton app. It's super easy and it's something that is a quick swap, and just gauge how you feel. Like we're such big believers in collecting data, right? If you try yoga one morning instead of riding your Peloton, just fucking try it. Like you don't have to commit to it for the rest of your life. Just try it, collect the data, see how you feel. Did you feel better or did you feel worse? If you felt better or even equal, okay, well, maybe that's a good way to start like adding it in, right? We do that 2 days a week instead of, swapping out like a Peloton class for that. So I think that you just need to almost like remove the judgment around it, because that is what almost like the line that we're fed. It is this hustle culture. If you want to succeed, if you want to, be successful, if you want to have it all, then you have to be it all and you have to do it all. But doing that is really what leads to burnout. So give your body the chance to recover, pay attention to how it feels. And yeah, try to just make like little swaps and see how you feel. It's not gonna be the end of the world.
That's exactly it. And like you can always go back to your routine if you hate it, right? But at least try it and just see how you feel. And if you are doing that, like I want to hear how you're adjusting your routine. I want to hear how you're feeling. I want to hear how recovery is going after workout. Like Jess said, join our free app. It's like the best, coolest community where women just like you, like me and Jess, like we're all learning how to manage stress, recover from burnout. We're not like, we are all overachievers, and like we can be overachievers, but we have to be able to manage stress well. And we have to be able to recover from burnout and not get to the point of burnout to maintain our overachieving level. Okay. So come join us in the Luminu app, and send me or Jess a DM there. Like anyone can message us in the app, like directly, where we want to chat. We want to hear from you. We want to help you. Okay. And yeah, I hope this helps. I hope, if you're like, God, I've been really hating my workouts lately, maybe this is like your wake up call to be like, oh, wait a second. Am I burnt out? Am I overstressed? Should I like take a step back and like try something else? Just try it. You might really love it. Okay. And if you did, if this really resonated with you, it would mean the world if you shared this episode with a friend that needs to hear, a coworker, your sister, your mom, like literally whoever. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's continue to spread the word and be balanced together.